And here are Mr. Peter Miller himself from Condition Nutrition. How are you today, my friend? I would say on this Monday morning, but was it Monday evening, Monday afternoon in sunny Perth?
Yeah, it's Monday afternoon. Yeah, 5 o'clock. I've lost track of time. Then yeah, it's yeah, not too bad. Nice day. Can't complain.
Was it on the weather already? Look at that for a start of a conversation. We love it. We love it.
Oh, you have to do it when you live over there after being in the UK for so long.
The rules, isn't it? Now,
Yeah.
regards of, well, let's get straight into things. So, Cage
Yep.
Warriors trilogy. Did you catch most of it?
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it. Yeah, I had a fighter,
Hmm.
Connor Wilson.
You're fighting
He was
Kieran
fighting.
Mulholland.
Yeah. So it wasn't the result that we wanted, but yeah, onwards and upwards really.
As to say, with Kieran is top level competition as well. So it's the thing with Cage Warriors as well. It's nothing to take away from the competitors who come up short, but it's lions to lions. It's sort of real competition. So it's good to see people putting themselves out there. Regards of his camp, how involved were you at that point?
So I only really got involved in the last few weeks. So I didn't work in the full camp. So we just designed a fight week strategy, what sort of stuff we need to do in terms of, because the way I would plan a fight camp is, so client comes to me, says I've got to be this weight. So I try and work out, right, what do we need to get them for fight week? So say, for example, they need to be 70 kilos. And I think, right, and they're, for example, 78 at the time, say, right, we can get you to around 74 fight week. We know we've got strategies that we can use to manipulate body mass through, cutting carbohydrates, fiber, sodium, water load. So there's a few strategies that we can use. But yeah, that's like the last stage of it. But I tend to look at a fight camp into 3 stages. So stage 1 would be say you've got 8 weeks out, the 8 weeks to 1 week to fight week. And then that's stage 2 would be fight week. Stage 3 would be post weigh-in. Stage 4, fight day.
So, regard to these different stages and the effect it has on the competitors themselves. So, when it comes to the nature of cutting weight outside of the calorie deficit, the fatigue, and everything else, obviously the hormones, and again the mental sort of strain on that sort of thing. Like, do you include refuels this sort of point? Is it all just the same kind of rinse and repeat? Was it rice and fish cake kind of energy sort of thing? How would you like to? I don't know.
So it all really depends on the athlete as well. Obviously, from MMA, they often train 2-3 times a day. So we try and maximize the calories for the hard training days. So I don't give a set, you've got to eat this, this, and this 7 days a week. We try and tailor it around the training program. So, high training days, we do a bit more carbohydrates. Low training days, bit more emphasis on protein, increasing fat. Yeah, it's all individualized, because from what my experience when working with fighters is, what they've done in the past is they cut carbohydrates far too early from the camp. When they say, how are your energy levels, like, oh, I feel like shit. It's like, yeah, I can see why, training 3 times a day and you're having 0 carbohydrates. Yeah, it's you need to really look at what the training schedule is and really tailor it around that, because then that's when you get the adaptations. Because, for example, a rest day, you don't need to be having 200 grams of carbohydrates a day, 250, whatever, because you're not using that. So it's really like periodized nutrition. That's my sort of emphasis on things.
Now, again, with the same sort of point with all these sort of things, there's a few things to sort of go into. Where was I going to start with this? And it was with fighters, and you tend to get, like you said, they're cutting carbs. They get 2 ends of the spectrum. You get people who don't eat anything. They starve themselves for the whole camp, and the ones who treat themselves a lot because they're training really hard, and all the burgers here and this, that, and the other, and that kind of happy medium. Regards of compliance, especially the fact you're remote most of the time, I'd imagine, is, do you give strict plans? Is it calorie numbers to be independent with? Is it tracking their food? How would you like to monitor what they're eating and sort of assign what they're eating as such?
Well, I find a lot with fighters, they tend to prefer a sort of structured plan instead of giving like, oh, you need to have this many calories a day and sort of food examples, I find from my experience that a structured plan is the most ideal scenario. So I typically, so my plans each week, it's because I work remotely, it's accessed via an app. So each week we work out, how many calories they need, carbs, fat, protein, and then each week we just tailor it around the weight loss, and then we mix it up, because as much as a lot of fighters do eat, are happy eating the same foods, you want to make the camp as less
monotonous sort of
what's
thing.
the word? But chicken, rice, and broccoli every day. So it's fucking just, it's like
soulless.
It's a soulless. So like you try and include food which is enjoyable and like healthier alternatives, like even stuff as like like the Halo ice cream. Like I have a lot of fighters like I love it. I love ice cream. How can I include it into my diet? It's like, okay, well, you can use this, on high training days. You can. You don't want to make it. You want to. My job is to make it as least stressful as possible. Because with all the training and fight camp, you've got other things to worry about, and the nutrition. I try and just make it try and break it down and make it as simple as possible.
Well, this is it. There's a few sort of general fitness FAQ sort of things. I like your sort of, I don't know, de-jargoning kind of because the term, here's a question for you. What defines a healthy food? Because again, you'll hear people saying they're eating healthy. In your, I don't know, Occam's razor approach of what is healthy, regards of choosing a food option.
That's a good question. I don't really have like a definition. It's like, oh, that is healthy or not healthy, because I don't like to categorize foods in that bracket.
I'll interrupt there. So that's not the point. This is why I wanted to ask this question, because it's not as cut as dry as this is good, this is bad. So feel free to carry on. That was more the premise I wanted to start this on, that this isn't yes, no's. It's a lot more than just the surface level sort of thing.
I suppose it's in a way, you could eat a pizza twice a week, and that's a Domino's pizza twice, that's fine. But then if you go into the other end of the spectrum where you're having it every night, then you've got to balance that. And obviously in terms of, for the fighter, in terms of like macros, you want to be having the right macros and not like eating a really fatty, as an example, like a really fatty pizza kind of thing. I like to include, like, so a lot of fighters I try and include like a refuel day once every couple of weeks, to say, right, on a Sunday, every second Sunday, go and enjoy what food you like, because you train hard this week, we follow the diet well, and then that sort of gives a bit more compliance to the plan as well. But then there's the other end of the spectrum where some fighters like, I don't want to do that, I just want to crack on with the plan. And it's you get a big mixture where a lot of fighters are very like number specific, where they want to know, what's the reason behind you giving me this? What's the reason behind giving that? And then some like, okay, just give me the plan, I'll follow it. At the end of the week, how's everything going? Yeah, great. You want anything changing? No, that's fine. And then they just crack on with it. So there's a big difference in terms of how a lot of fighters work.
Oh, definitely. And again, I'm very much similar in that sort of vein of, I like my calories, I'll weigh everything, the peels of the orange, that sort of thing. You need to know exactly what's going where, make sure you're hitting those numbers. And again, it's kind of that control thing. And as much as having someone like yourself as that other body where it's, okay, this is what you should be eating and make sure you're following this specific plan. Like compliance is definitely an interesting topic in this. So for example, if you give someone X amount of calories a day to have, and they say they've scanned all this, you don't see the snacks, you don't see everything. Like how specific are your programs to the calorie or to the reference point? Do you give any leeway? Do you make it extra tight to allow this sort of?
Well, I always try and find out about the person themselves. So like what foods do you enjoy? What pastimes you do to relax? If they like, I really like eating ice cream on a weekend, you try and tailor the food habits around the plan and make it as easy as possible. Because like you've probably seen it yourself, even like in in the PT type world where like, oh, I want to lose weight, and the PT's like, right, you eat this, and like, I've never eaten kale in my life. What's it? Oh, I've never eaten. And it's like you need to have that sort of relationship with the clients, and like, because there's just no point giving a plan that you think, you know, it works for so and so, it's going to work for them. You've got to really individualize it, because, as I said, the fight camp's a very tough process. You know, it's the training demands are hard. You want to make it as easy as possible in terms of nutrition.
Now, there's certain subjects you want to go into on this, sort of spin things on its head a little bit, kind of, not really. The nature of what we're talking about now is your services you provide, and obviously giving an understanding of who you are as a person to work with, that kind of side of things. But from a nutritionist point of view of starting that business, starting that brand, obviously we speak about PT businesses and things like that. You start to brand out this way. Yourself getting started and building a brand, the Condition Nutrition brand, how did that sort of, what have you found? What sort of mistakes have you found from building? What sort of things have you found work well for you for building a business point of view? And also, I don't know, that side of things.
I've learned from starting a business that most of your ideas don't fucking work. Like, you come up with
cuts deep.
Yeah, you realize that, like, you think, you wake up and think, oh, this is a really good idea, and like you spend a week on it, and then it's like, I've got absolutely like for example, I'll give, like, when I started my business, I thought it was going to be, you know, that's it. I finished uni, finished my master's degree. That's it. I'm going to be working with top athletes, and like, you know, 3 months in, I'm sitting there like, oh, like, I thought to be a you know, superstar now. And it's like,
it's phone on silent. I know it's not. It's not loud. It's
fine. yeah. Checking your phone every night. So, just like, what I've probably learned the mistake is what I thought is good for someone. What I think's good is not necessarily what other people think's good. Like, I've done countless things where, you know, making books and ebooks and stuff, and thinking, oh yeah, people love this, and like, no one's interested. It's just, I've been doing this for nearly 5 years now, and it's just a lot, just trial and error. And like, one of my big mistakes was I was very broad in my my clientele. So I work with a lot of like general population. I work with some soccer players, rugby, you know, bodybuilders, and then it just gets to a point where you work with that, you need to sort of niche your business down. And I pretty much landed on my feet with combat sports, where I started training jiu-jitsu, and then started talking to a couple of guys on the mat. They told them, obviously, my qualifications. Oh, can you help me out with nutrition? And then it just sort of went from there. Then recommendations, and then I sort of just to happen. But I feel like that happens with a lot, really, where you just work with one client, and you know, you're successful, and then, you know, I always have the opinion where success leaves clues. So then you start diving into a bit more, learning a bit more, you become a bit more passionate about it, and it's sort of gone from there, really.
I mean, that's where it's like the whole X amount of years to be an overnight success, isn't it? Again, you're saying there the amount of time trying this, trying that, and look, I fell into this. Well, not really. You did a lot of steps to fall to that position. And when it comes to working with combat sports athletes, this is an interesting sort of point, I feel, is where measuring calories burnt versus perceived amount. Like, are you one for using, you know, the heartbeat things, you know, the what they call MyZone stuff? Are you on for that kind of measurements? Is it more?
It's,
I don't know,
you can
RPE
get
sort of thing. How do you find with measuring that kind of output to get a gauge of, I don't know, required calories?
So obviously it's quite a difficult area when you're working, especially a lot of my work is online. So I tend to I get my fighters to just get a standard heart rate monitor, or if they're using, you know, Apple Watch, and you can gauge roughly what they're burning through like the average heart rate throughout the session. But obviously a lot of these things are not 100% accurate, unfortunately. A lot of the, you know, top level fighters, they've got access to like university equipment where you can measure that stuff a lot better. But a lot of the time it is sort of trial and error in terms of, like, for example, calories. You know, you first week of a client is on board, and you give them roughly what you think, working out the rest of the metabolic rate, and if you give me a body fat percentage, and then they've lost, instead of I'm predicting they should be losing half a kilo a week, they lose a kilo a week, and right, okay, we know now that we can afford to have a little bit more calories. So a lot of it is trial and error. I personally would want to have, you know, the top of the range equipment to do that, but obviously working remotely, you don't get that luxury to do it. But a heart rate monitor, I that's the one I recommend, and sending the average heart rate throughout the session, the time, and then we can get a rough estimation of what calories they're burning for that session.
Yeah, definitely. So this is why it's interesting, because again, if you're out of shape, you think, God, that was a long walk. That must be at least a couple of thousand calories. That's at least a few pizzas. You know what I mean? Whereas you're like, I wish. And from a client point of view, again, sort of darting around subjects, but again, we'll sort of catch up at some point.
Oh yeah.
If someone comes to you, say, I don't know, like myself, for example, amateur MMA fighter, fighting in X amount, what's that, 8 weeks. I want to work with you.
Yep.
How do your packages work? Is it per camp? Is it per plan? How do you do what's your model essentially?
So I have different packages. So in terms of, it's all depending on what you're after. So if you want something really structured, you know, because a lot of it all depends on whether the client has nutrition knowledge. Some people don't have any knowledge, and you need to really break it down. So I tend to go by a weekly basis. So the fight camp, just like a fee per week. And that obviously includes, you know, your nutrition plan, your messaging support, and then we've got, you know, fight week strategy, post weigh-in, fight day. And with clients in Perth, I can also do body fat assessments with skin folds, stuff like that.
Get the calipers on.
Yeah,
it's pinching.
It's quite fun. The calipers. People don't really like them getting tested. I don't know why it's a weird one, but yeah, it's so yeah. So for example, if a client came to me and was like, so firstly, I try and get some baseline measurements. So for example, you came to me now, said about 8 weeks, X amount of weight, need to get to this. I go, right, well, ideally, I'd want you to get some sort of body fat assessment. So we basically see what's under the hood. So we know, for example, you say you're 80 kilos and you get to 70 for your fight. You're 15% body fat. We know, right, we can lose, you know, X amount through body fat reduction. And we can get to a certain number, say, you know, for example, 74, 75, and then we can lose the rest from, you know, acute weight loss strategies. But say you came to me and you're 6% body fat, we go, right, well, that's, you know, that's going to make it a lot more difficult, because you're going to be tapping into muscle, and the cut's going to be very difficult. So I always try and get like a body fat assessment at the start. Because a lot of the time you are just, it's I'm gonna say it's guesswork, but if you don't
to an
get
extent,
them,
it has to be, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, realistically, you can't know gram for gram at every single stage. Like the amateur competence kind of things, you kind of, every time you take a piss, you're a different person by the looks of things, and it's just so hard to keep consistent with that. And when you say about body fat percentage, obviously the leaner you are, the easier the water is to cut, but even then it gets a bit very narrow margins. What is your general rule of thumb for how little is too little body fat when it comes to these weight losses?
I think the range I typically go for, a healthy range, is between 6 and 12. I think if you're getting any more, I've even pushed for 7, really. I think if you're getting lower than that and you still have to lose a significant amount of weight, that's when it gets a little bit tricky, and, you know, it gets into my side. Well, my philosophy is obviously health first, and I've got ethical, you know, what's the word? Reasons. Like I don't want to morals. That's them. So I don't, that the athlete's health first. So I don't really want to, you know, there comes like a bit of a crossroads. Like, right, you can do that, but it's going to have some negative complications on your health. So, you can advise and say, right, I'd recommend you moving up a weight, but if there's money involved, and the coaches saying, you need to fight to that weight, it becomes a little bit of a difficult situation. But luckily I haven't had anyone who's come to me who's 6% body fat and needs to lose a significant amount of weight. So I haven't really gone to that stage just yet. But I know that is from practitioners that I know, that's happened a few times, and becomes a little bit of an moral ethical issue.
Well, definitely.
But
Again,
I'm sorry. Yeah. So around 7 to 12%, I typically go for, and then a female probably around 15 to 22%. But yeah.
I feel a huge thing with this where it gets really tricky is the fact the sport is very weight orientated. When it comes to general public and well-being, like the numbers are fairly arbitrary. If people's appearance, they feel good in themselves and so on and so forth, I mean, the scale's another thing you can sort of put to one side. But again, it's like you see people like Darren Till, people who've taken these horrible weight cuts. I mean, self-included, these things where you're prepared to die in a sauna. Like these kind of conversations you have with yourself and your team that you know what you sign up for. But then from your point of view, from professional, because how does it look on you if someone you said can make weight, either one doesn't or the other side of things tries too hard to make it? It's these really interesting conversations. This is where you sort of show who you are as a person versus a professional. And then you're going out these extra sort of stages and steps. And this is where, your experience sort of starts to show and you really start to gain these things. And it becomes like you said, they're a very moral conversation. Regards of other people in the sport, other sort of colleagues you may have had along the way with this, have you had any sort of instances where you've had to, intervene and say, are you sure you should be doing that? Are you sure that's safe for them to do that? Or would you rather let them? I don't know.
So I've had clients, well, not clients, but I've had people come up to me and say, right, I need to lose X amount. The most has been, I think it was around 16 kilos. This I don't want to mention any names, but so this guy from Birmingham, he said you need to lose 16 kilos. And I was like, look, like in 8 weeks, I was like, that is just, for me, that is too dangerous. I can't, even as as my profession, I don't want to run the risk of having a bad rep and anything like that. It's just myself. It's just like that's not good. And there was a study. So this is my reference to. There was a study a couple of years back in Liverpool, John Moores. They do a lot of like combat sports research, and it was on. I think he's mentioned it in posts and stuff. It was that Paddy the Baddy. So he did a weight cut. I think he had to lose like 15 kilos in 8 weeks, and he lost 8 kilos in 18 hours. And then his results at the end, his testosterone was the lowest reported in the literature. It was like 3 nanomole. His sodium levels are that high. It was replicas of a intensive care patient, and he had signs of acute kidney injury. So I always look at research papers like that and go, right, that's that. They tried to do a structured plan, and that's the results they got anyway. So,
I mean, Paddy's been known to like get a bit fluffy between camps anyway. So, there's always a bit of a, but no, I appreciate what you're saying there to say this is the reality of it.
It's like, so I always try to, I'm research focused really. So I look at the research and go, right, that like them levels, like the testosterone is like the lowest on like seen in literature. It's like, that is not, that's not healthy at all. And, I always refer to research and that's where I get a lot of my opinions and my practices from. So yeah, a lot of people think, oh yeah, someone wants to sign up for the plan, they get paid, great, but it's someone's health and someone's life. If something happens to them, you're liable. And there's been cases in the UK where people have been liable for scenarios where the athlete has, unfortunately passed away through bad weight cut methods.
I mean, this is where these conversations become so much more prominent because you talk about like old school training. You hear about, oh, my coach used to do this. You think that sounds insane. And you see the state of them now, and you think that used to be the standard. And you talk about weight cutting now,
Yeah,
like, oh, everyone loses 10% of their body weight and more. So, oh, everyone does this, everyone does that. So, how old are they going to be to tell these stories and tell these anecdotes in the pub?
yeah,
You know what I mean? You don't really want these. Like the prime example was I think Dean Garnett in the BBC Three documentary on weight cutting and that kind of
yeah,
process. I mean, even that wasn't considered a huge cut. Even from a layman's point of view, that's insane. But a lot of people, that's business as usual, and that's
yeah,
terrifying. That is
yeah.
horrible.
Well, the thing is as well. So the study I was telling about with Paddy the Baddy, he had the research team around to take these, testosterone levels, plasma sodium, renal function. But the general fighter does these weight cuts and they don't have no idea what effects they're having on the body.
Mm.
Like it's so dangerous. My philosophy, and I never want a fighter to lose more than maximum like 3 to 4% through dehydration. That's my blueprint. I don't want to go any further than that. And for me, that's just like morals and just the health of the athlete as well.
Oh,
But obviously
100%.
you know yourself, fighters lose a lot more than that through saunas, hot baths, dehydration, etc.
In the same conversation as if you're going to get in a cage and fight, your well-being isn't necessarily your number one priority. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
this is where these whole things get very tricky.
yeah.
Now, regards of your involvement outside of a camp and that sort of thing, do you get a lot of people who use you on a regular basis outside of competition prep?
Yeah, well, I try and look at things like not necessarily it's a 52-week fight camp, but you've got to look after yourself in that out of camp period. There's no point ballooning up in weight and then you're fighting again. The process is just a yo-yo cycle and starting again. So I do have a couple of fighters who just it's like a once every couple of weeks basis, just checking in, giving some recommendations on what they should be eating, a rough sort of like calorie estimate. So typically for like out of training, out of fight camp, sorry, usually go for around like a 4-2-1 approach. So around like 4 grams per kilogram in carbs, 2 grams per kilogram protein, 1 gram of fat. It's just a baseline and just a field training, and it's inevitable you're going to put on a little bit of body fat, but some people like to have a bit more in that period because a little bit more cushion, feel a bit better during training. But yeah, it's probably I'd probably say 70% tend to just go, oh yeah, I'll come back to you in a few weeks, and then they sort of come back when the next fight camp is. But it's I suppose, and you've got to look at it as well. It's the cost for a nutritionist. If you want a nutritionist all year round, people have families and stuff like that. So I do try and educate them, and just like once they finish the fight, and say, look, try and just have these sort of macros, while you're training, and then if they want to, carry on a more structured plan. But yeah, the majority of the time it's mainly people go and then sort of come back again, which is I can understand that.
I mean, this is the reality of it though, because again, not everyone's a professional athlete with all the hours in the day to train and recover and prep and everything else, like cooking as well, even little things like that. And the reason I want to go into that side of things is more of the maintenance, because for prime example, someone comes to you with always weight to lose, it becomes a weight loss camp, not a fight camp. Whereas if you're in shape, or at least in a certain condition leading up to the fight camp, then it becomes a different conversation. And the nature of how this sort of works, it's quite a spectrum of people, how you get these. But the nature of where I want to take this sort of conversation now is the new standard. So we have the amateurs training like professionals. I was taking things to this next level. Regards of weight cutting and performance, what's the fastest turnaround you could see for these kind of weight cuts to performance? So, for example, 8-week camp, cut weigh in, rehydrate, perform. How soon are you expecting your athlete to go back again, sensibly?
Um,
Outside of their own fight injuries and stuff, more from a well-being point of view and
yeah,
like gut health, things like that.
I think it's a bit of a mixture, really. I've had guys where this is especially when a fighter's lost. A lot of the time, they want to go straight back into it. The next card. It all really depends on how severe the cut is, really, and as weight cutting it, that's like weight cutting isn't easy. It's hard, and you don't want going back into the cage again like 2 months later is probably not. It's not probably not ideal. It isn't ideal, but as I said, some people a lot of times a fighter loses, like you want to go back straight back in, and it's like, if they want to do that, like they're gonna do it regardless whether they come to me or
Yeah.
they're gonna do it regardless. So like you've just got to sort of be as, what's the word for it, like just be as health. Yeah. You've got to understand and say, it's a competitive sport. People want to, so amateurs want to, a lot of amateurs want to turn pro. It's just like, I think it all depends on on the size of the cut. If it's like a really big cut and it's, luckily I haven't worked with guys who have to do a really serious cut. So I haven't had that problem, but yeah, I think it all depends really on the cut and the psychology of the fighter also. But yeah, there's lots of evidence out there with yo-yo diet, and it makes it a lot harder as time goes on. Makes it harder to lose the weight. I've had guys who I'm working with who are in like late 30s and 40s, and it's really like the weight cutting's becoming harder and harder now because he's been doing it for 10, 15 years. But yeah, as I said, people want to get back in the cage straight away, even if they win or they lose.
No, definitely. And again, there's a few things with this I want to sort of go into, and the same sort of, I don't want to say FAQ, but sort of general questions I myself would have and anyone listening might have. After a fight, after performance, obviously you hear people ballooning back up, or some people being very disciplined and pretty much sticking to what the food they were on. What is your general advice for someone who's had the weight cut, had the performance? Is it to put on some kilos for recovery? Is it to try and maintain what they already got? Is it fluctuating between the two? Where do you see the general rule of thumb as such?
You want to try and, because you've been in a calorie deficit for so long, you want to get at least the calories to maintenance calories, and obviously the week, 2 weeks after the fight, a lot of time, that calorie, it's often in a calorie surplus. You probably have yourself, you probably have a couple of weeks off, and then you want to get back to a little bit of like training again. But I try and get to like a maintenance calories, and then also depends on whether some fighters want to move up a weight, or they want to some cases where they want to move down a weight. It's all really individualized, to be honest. I couldn't really give like a generic sort of answer to that. It's like, yeah, I just try and recommend to hit at least maintenance calories and try and work out roughly like a calorie range. So, for example, your maintenance calories are 2,500 calories. Try and aim for 2,500 to 2,800, just that little range, and then and then sort of go from there. I probably haven't answered that greatly, but yeah, it's very individualized, I think.
This is a tricky thing, these questions, because again, the much so I want the rule of thumb, it doesn't really work that way. But like, to sort of summarize off what you just said there, is more so similar to what you're on, but easing back up, opposed to sort of spiking either side of it, to sort of boost it back up, to sort of catch up with the deficit you're in, to try to not flatten the curve, but pretty much. This is it. Regards to supplements, for most fighters, you seem to find and recommend. So obviously the creatines, beta alanines, general proteins, sort of subs, BCAAs. What's your general experience with in combat sports, what do you find effective? What do you find a bit of good branding opposed to actually effective?
I try and keep it as simple as possible in terms of supplements. So first one is just a standard whey protein. That's perfect throughout the day, trying to hit them. So obviously when you're in a calorie deficit, you try and have protein needs increase. So you try and aim for around, during fight camp, roughly about 2 grams per kilogram. So it sometimes can be quite difficult getting that just from whole foods. So I find whey protein is a perfect thing during the day as also a snack. Secondly, I would recommend creatine, but it all depends really on the size of the cut. So at the start of the camp, if they're already taking creatine before camp, I'd say stick to it. And then there's a washout period of creatine around 4 to 6 weeks. So a rule of thumb, I try and tell fighters if they are taking it to taper off a couple of weeks beforehand, just with the obvious water associated water retention through it. Beta alanine also, that's been shown in numerous, same with creatine, to improve high intensity performance, which obviously combat sports is. And I forgot to mention also with creatine, it's there's been studies as well with cognitive performance, memory processing time, reaction time. Mm-hmm. So obviously, with combat sports, that's important. So it's not just the muscle, the performance side of things. It's also, in a psychological sort of motor learning kind of thing. With beta alanine. So the only issue with beta alanine, because obviously some fighters may come to me, 3-4 weeks out, and with beta alanine, there's a loading phase around 4 weeks. So it's all dependent on the time scale of when they come to you in terms of fight camp. But so there's with beta alanine, it's around 6 grams a day, but there's a loading phase around 4 weeks. So that acts as like a buffer. I don't know, it acts like a buffer in your muscles. So when you obviously perform high intensity actions, the buildup of lactic acid, they say, can contribute to fatigue. So beta alanine acts as like a buffer to delay fatigue, and obviously you can perform a little bit. You can perform high intensity efforts longer. But yeah, for them, I'd typically go for like them 3. And then in terms of health wise, I don't typically recommend multivitamins, only because a lot of the multivitamins, you take them and you end up just pissing them out. You just end up just pissing. So it's not really like, a lot of it's not. Don't get me wrong, it's not going to do any harm taking one. But yeah, it's not like a lot of the time. Yeah, a lot of these multivitamins, unfortunately, just end up pissing them out. But like fish oils, like the anti-inflammatory properties. Obviously, if you're not having a lot of fish in your diet, a lot of fatty fish, so it includes some fish oil around like 3 grams a day. But then if you're having a lot of, I typically try and recommend having some fatty fish, salmon. So if you're having that anyway, studies are showing that you don't particularly need to supplement with that. But if a lot of fighters, a lot of them quite fussy, so they don't eat fish, so typically try and recommend like a fish oil tablet. But I don't try and go too deep into the supplement, because then it gets a bit supplement focused rather than food focused. There's studies that are showing like beetroot juice can enhance performance and stuff like that, and like other supplements. But once you start going into that rabbit hole, it becomes like like a pillbox for like an old person.
This is
I've got to take this, and this, and it becomes a bit.
As your zinc today, so I don't care about magnesium.
Yeah. It's like I remember with when I was studying my master's degree, my lecturer worked for Leinster or Munster Rugby, and when he started working there, he said there was a guy he was taking like up to 20 supplements a day, and like why are you taking? Like, oh, I just seen it on like the internet, and like he had this big box of this like big box of supplements. He took a photo and showed us, like, it's like that's a big, like, a big thing. A lot of people get the same with like general population, where people get very supplement focused, and like the supplements, like if you look at like a pyramid in terms of the food pyramid, like not food pyramid, but like supplements is on, towards the top, like the last bit of
because it should supplement what you're not getting from what you're already eating. And it's, people seem to miss that as a protein supplement. Like how much protein are you consuming during the day anyway? Like, do you really need the extra, like the protein anyway, because you're already eating that, and what you're, again, it's a bit of a quick fix kind of culture, I feel.
Same with BCAAs. Like the studies really have shown with BCAAs, if you're having enough protein in your diet anyway, BCAAs don't really do anything. That, like, it's just, you'd be better just having a protein source, or you'd be better having a protein shake instead of just having BCAAs. So I typically don't really. I'm this is where we were talking about before about what you've learned in your practice. When I first started, I was like, oh, supplements, this is the thing. You take this, and then now it's you try and, as we were saying before, but I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. If I recommend 4, and then if for example they're already taking beetroot juice, for example, I'd say carry on. You can carry on having that, but if they're not, I wouldn't add. I wouldn't add this. I wouldn't add that. Yeah.
You wouldn't take it out, but you wouldn't add it in. Fantastic. Before I let you shoot off, mate, just to go over and something you touched on earlier about working with yourself. When it comes to working with you, what should we expect? Is it going to be a link to like a Trello kind of working remotely kind of thing together? Is it going to be a big PDF, like an ebook? What does working with you actually look like from a client point of view?
Yeah, so with my clients, so with majority of my work being online, we so for example, a client, someone connects me on Instagram, wants to work with me, we go through a few health questionnaires, a wake up questionnaire, just to get a bit of background history in terms of what they've done in the past, and then my plans are run through an app, so it's really easy. It's on the phone, and we have everything sort of done on there. So it's like client check-ins each week. We can track the progress, and then it's just regular communication. Obviously, I was mentioning before, some clients want to talk, regularly, once a day, or I've done this, send a picture of food, what's this like? And then some people like, you get a plan and you chat to them once a week. How's everything going? Yeah, great. Want anything change for next week? No, I'm okay. How's everything going? Feeling fatigue, you sleep, etc. Yeah, I'm good. And then they just crack on. But yeah, mine's on app, and it's really easy, because I found in the past, talking about my practice, when you're given heaps of PDFs, heaps of Word documents, etc., people want it as simple as possible, and they want the plan there. With technology now, with stuff like MyFitnessPal and stuff like that, where you want it easy and there in front of you, and like it's great having an app that I use. It's like a sports nutrition app, so it's like a lot of people in my area use that, other sports nutritionists, and it's just really simple. You got the weekly planner, the macros, all the recipes, and how you can quick and easy recipes, and we can tailor it around low carb, high carb, medium carb, tailor around the training. It's just try and make it as easy as possible for the fighter, really.
Oh, 100%. I say this is the nature of why these conversations are important, because again, if you're from a layman point of view trying to understand, okay, I need a nutritionist, what does that mean? Okay, I need the support for this, that, and the other. Okay, cool. How would that be managed? How would I do this? What's it going to be? And again, it's more materializing the idea. Thank you for your time, my friend. Regards, people getting in touch with you, what's the best way of getting hold of you?
The best way is probably through my Instagram. That's where I do most of my posts and videos, etc. So it'll be condition.nutrition. I should be the first person that comes up. I don't think there's anyone else called Condition Nutrition, but I'll be up there. And then if anyone wants to shoot me a message and have a chat, and I'm happy to give advice for anyone who's struggled with any aspect in terms of the nutrition. And yeah, look forward to speaking to anyone who's interested.
Fantastic. Be sure to check out our sponsors, the English Hypnotist and Good Performance Nutrition. English Hypnotist, we speak about nutrition right now, but again, in regards to the mental side of competition, I work with Rich this camp. And again, it's something you can't really appreciate until you do it yourself. It's something where the visualization side of things, the actual hypnosis side of things, it's absolutely game changing, definitely worth doing. And we're speaking about supplements, Good Performance Nutrition. Dan Good, former professional MMA fighter, businessman, fitness fanatic. Again, he's a very people oriented person, and his products affordable, good quality. Can't recommend them enough. Thank you for your time, my friend. Have a good day and take care of yourself.
No worries.